You know, with all the huge stories this week, it seems like the world's on fire because it is. I want to tell you about Trump's favorite shoes. Not because it's the most important story of the week. Look, we've got the war going on. We've got yo-yoing global oil markets, a Senate majority leader telling the president that he doesn't have the votes while scheduling a vote anyway to take away your rights in November. There's a lot going on. But I want to tell you about the shoes because it's a little lighter, and yet somehow it is the perfect metaphor for everything in the White House. Look, the President of the United States has become obsessed with a brand of $145 discount dress shoes. And now he is forcing them on everyone he meets, which sounds about right for Trump. But the best part here is the company that is making them is currently suing Donald Trump for millions of dollars over his tariffs, and Trump seemingly has no idea, or at least he's turning a blind eye. The shoes are Florsheim Oxfords. They're a classic American dress shoe. They're $145. They're available at most discount shoe stores. Florsheim was founded in Chicago, 1892. They've been around forever. Michael Jackson wore them to perform. You can find them at your DSW. And Trump, who normally wears Italian Baroni suits, discovered that these shoes sometime last year and became, by all accounts, obsessed with them. He literally keeps a stack of them in the Oval Office, and he hands them out constantly. A White House official, a female White House official, told the Wall Street Journal about the shoes, quote, "All the boys have them." And I still laugh at all of the cabinet guys being called boys, because they are. A second staffer said this, and I want you to appreciate the language here. Quote, "It's hysterical because everyone's afraid not to wear them." The list of people who's received the loyalty shoes from Trump, it includes, it's a long list. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and he's got a funny story here. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, Howard Lutnick, Communications Director Stephen Chung, Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair, everybody. Ross Worthington, Sean Hannity, Lindsey Graham, Tucker Carlson, all of them have received these wingtips. Tucker Carlson's, by the way, they were a pair of brown wingtips during a lunch meeting. Trump literally stopped the meeting to talk about these incredible new shoes. There are even reports that one official was rankled that he had to shelve his Louis Vuittons to put on the Florsheims. But just again, there's a war going on in Iran, and Trump's worried about the shoes, just to be clear. But I want to talk about Marco Rubio specifically, because this story has a physical comedy element that I think deserves its own moment. And to me, Rubio is the perfect embodiment of the boy turned man, because he looks just like a little boy looking up to Daddy Trump. And when the New York Times visited the White House in December to interview Trump and his staff, Vance lifted his leg in the air, actually lifted his leg, to show the president the pair of Florsheims he was wearing. And then Rubio did the exact same thing. And on that same day, as the interview, Rubio was photographed on Capitol Hill, and well, the shoes just don't fit. I've got the picture right here. You can look at it. And Rubio, he's an 11 and a half. And these shoes are way too big. They are clown shoes. The perfect metaphor for this administration. Think about it. The Secretary of State, the fourth most powerful person in the United States government, limping around Capitol Hill in discount clown shoes that don't fit because he's afraid the president will notice if he's not wearing them. And why don't these shoes fit? Because Trump has reportedly begun guessing people's shoe size mid-meeting. He examines your feet, looks at a list or a catalog, he guesses, and then he orders them. The brown shoe boxes arrive at the White House about a week later, and then he just starts handing them out. And a staffer told the Wall Street Journal that almost all of the male staff wear them because they are afraid. At the White House. Again, we're at war with Iran, and the male staffers are afraid of Trump being angry over their shoe choice. But my favorite part of this whole story, the part that Trump apparently doesn't know, or at least does not acknowledge, is that the parent company of Florsheim is Waco, the Waco Group, based in Glendale, Wisconsin. Waco was one of the first companies to sue Donald Trump over his tariffs back in December. They asked the U.S. Court of International Trade to declare that Trump's tariff power grab was illegal, and they asked for a $16 million refund in the tariffs they've already paid. We know that the Supreme Court struck down the tariffs in February, and we're waiting for those refunds, and Waco is seeking that refund with interest. The CEO, Thomas Florsheim Jr., a fifth-generation Florsheim, is a Democrat, by the way, and he told Spectrum News that at one point his company was paying a 145% tariff on shoes that were manufactured in China. His exact words, quote, "You're paying more for the tariff than you were for the shoes." So they moved their production to India. And then Trump imposed tariffs on India too. Florsheim Jr. said that from a business planning standpoint, it has been almost impossible. And he went on to say that the idea behind the tariffs originally was pro-business. And it feels like somehow the pro-business part of the tariffs have gotten lost. By the way, the Waco Group's Political Action Committee, they donated exclusively to Democrats in 2024. So go out and buy some Florsheims. The CEO personally supported Kamala Harris. He led a group of Milwaukee business leaders who started meeting after January 6, 2021, because they were alarmed at what they saw. So when the Wall Street Journal called him about Trump's shoe obsession, he said that he wasn't aware of it and he had no comment. That's the sound of a man who has a calculated, correct thought that the less he says, the better, because Trump's buying his shoes and meanwhile he's using the money to support the Democrats. So again, Trump is giving out $145 shoes from a CEO, from a company that's run by a CEO that's a Democrat that supported Harris, who's suing Trump for $16 million over tariffs, who's had to move production multiple times overseas because of those tariffs. And his company's PAC donated exclusively to Democrats. Meanwhile, everyone at the White House is wearing these Florsheim shoes, even if they don't fit. Especially little Marco Rubio with his little clown shoes on Capitol Hill, and they may be giving all of them a blister. I just love that image. Look, the tariffs were supposed to bring manufacturing home. Instead, a company like Florsheim had to move their business to India. The pro-business tariffs made it impossible to run a business. And meanwhile, the president's out there handing shoes that don't fit while there's a war going on, and everybody's terrified, absolutely terrified, to not wear the shoes that don't fit. Isn't that the entire Trump regime in a nutshell? Or is it the ill-fitting Oxford, as it were? Doesn't it seem like our feeds are getting filled with more and more BS right-wing MAGA content? It's no secret that all these top tech bros are in love with the current regime, so it's no surprise that independent left-leaning media is being squashed by the algorithm. If you like our content and content like us, it doesn't take long to click that thumbs up, share, comment, or subscribe. So please help us keep the truth alive.